The caterer had never spoken more than a few polite words to me before that night. Her name was Denise, and she had catered 3 of our family events over the past 6 years. She knew where the extra folding chairs were kept. She knew I liked the shrimp cocktails served early before guests got too full for appetizers. She did not know anything about my marriage. At least that's what I believed until she walked up to me holding a small folded napkin like it weighed 50 pounds. My name is Sarah Whitfield. I was 46 years old, married to Gregory Whitfield for 19 years, and standing in my own backyard hosting our anniversary party in front of 90 guests. String lights hung between the oak trees. A 3-tier cake sat under a white tent. My mother-in-law kept refilling wine glasses like she owned the place, which in some ways she did, since she had helped us pay for the house years earlier. Everything looked perfect. That should have been my first warning. Nothing that looks that perfect stays that way for long. Denise approached me near the dessert table, her apron dusted with powdered sugar, her eyes darting toward the patio where Gregory stood laughing with his business partner, Mark. "Mrs. Whitfield," she said quietly, "can I speak with you for 1 second? Somewhere private." I assumed she needed more folding tables or had run out of napkins. I followed her behind the catering van parked in the driveway, away from the music and the laughter. She reached into her apron pocket and pulled out a folded napkin with something written on it in blue ink. "I wasn't sure if I should say anything," she whispered, "but I couldn't serve dinner tonight and pretend I didn't hear what I heard." I unfolded the napkin. 6 words were written across it in rushed handwriting. "Ask him about the Cancun account." I stared at those words for what felt like a full minute. Cancun? We had never been to Cancun. Gregory hated flying anywhere with humidity. "What does this mean?" I asked her, my voice lower than I expected. Denise glanced over her shoulder before answering. "About 20 minutes ago, I was setting up the bar near the side gate. Your husband was on the phone. He didn't see me," he said. "The account is set up under her name, not mine. Nobody will ever trace it back to Sarah." My stomach dropped straight through the concrete driveway. "Her name?" I repeated. "Whose name?" Denise shook her head. "I don't know." But he said something else before he hung up. He said, "She still thinks we're broke." That's exactly how I want it to stay. I felt the backyard noise fade into a dull hum behind me, like someone had turned the volume down on my entire life. For 3 years, Gregory had told me our savings were tight. He'd told me we needed to refinance the house. He'd told me his construction business was barely breaking even, which was why I picked up extra shifts at the hospital where I worked as a surgical nurse, sometimes doubles, just to help cover the mortgage and our daughter's college tuition. I looked back toward the patio. Gregory was still laughing, drink in hand, his arms slung around Mark's shoulder like nothing in the world was wrong. My hands were shaking, but my training as a nurse kicked in the same way I imagine a soldier's instincts take over during chaos. Stay calm, assess the situation. Do not act until you understand what you're dealing with. "Thank you for telling me," I said to Denise, folding the napkin and slipping it into my dress pocket. "Please don't say anything to anyone. Not tonight." She nodded, her eyes full of something between guilt and relief, like she had been carrying that sentence around all evening, waiting for the right moment to set it down. I walked back into the party with a smile stretched across my face, greeting guests, thanking them for coming, accepting compliments about the flowers and the cake. Nobody noticed anything different. Nobody could have known that the woman cutting into a 3-tier anniversary cake had just learned her husband might be hiding money under someone else's name. I smiled for photos. I hugged my sister. I even danced with Gregory during our anniversary song, his hand resting against my back the same way it had for 19 years. But the entire time, one question kept circling through my mind like a siren I couldn't shut off. If the money wasn't under his name, and it wasn't under mine, then whose name was it under? And how long had he been planning to disappear it completely? The party ended a little after 11. Guests trickled out with hugs and half-finished wine glasses, unaware that his wife now knew something he thought was buried. I didn't sleep that night. I lay next to him, listening to his breathing, replaying Denise's words over and over. The account is set up under her name, not mine. Whose name? I needed an answer, and I needed it without tipping him off that I already suspected something. The next morning, while Gregory showered, I did something I had never done in 19 years of marriage. I opened his laptop. He'd left it unlocked on the kitchen counter, still logged into his email from the night before. I searched for the word Cancun. Nothing. I searched for account transfer. Nothing. Then I tried something simpler. I searched for the name of his sister, Renee, who had been unusually generous with wedding gifts and birthday cards for a woman who claimed to be struggling financially herself. There it was, an email chain from 8 months earlier between Gregory and a wealth management firm in Austin, discussing an investment account opened under Renee Whitfield Carter's name, funded through what the email called business consulting fees. Attached was a document showing a balance of $214,000. My hands went cold. $214,000 sitting under his sister's name, while I picked up overnight shifts to keep our mortgage from falling behind. I screenshotted every email, every document, every date. Then I closed the laptop exactly the way I found it and made breakfast like nothing had happened. That afternoon, I called an attorney named Patricia Meyer, someone a coworker had used during her own divorce 2 years earlier. I sat in her office and laid out everything: the napkin, the phone call Denise overheard, the emails, the account under Renee's name. Patricia listened without interrupting, the same way a good surgeon listens before ever picking up a scalpel. When I finished, she said one sentence I'll never forget. "Sarah, this isn't just hidden money. This looks like fraud. And if he's been claiming poverty on paper while hiding assets, that could affect more than just your divorce." Over the following 3 weeks, Patricia and her investigator built a timeline. Renee's business consulting fees, it turned out, were fake invoices, designed to move money out of the marital accounts and into an account Gregory could quietly access whenever he needed. Worse, bank records showed Gregory had used part of that money to make payments on a condo in Waco, one I had never seen, never visited, and never been told existed. When Patricia pulled the ownership records, only one name appeared on the deed. Not mine, not Gregory's, Renee's. My husband had spent 3 years telling me we were broke, while building an entire second financial life behind my back, using his own sister as the paper trail to hide it. I confronted Gregory 2 days before Thanksgiving, calmly the way Patricia had coached me to. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I simply placed the printed emails on the kitchen table and asked him to explain the Cancun account. His face went pale, the same pale I imagine patients get right before they hear bad news in my hospital hallway. He tried to explain it as protecting our family's future. I told him protecting a family doesn't involve secret accounts under someone else's name. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. The court ordered the hidden funds returned to our marital estate, and Gregory was required to reimburse thousands in legal fees for what the judge called deliberate financial concealment. As for Denise, I never forgot what she risked that night. Telling a client something like that could have cost her the entire catering business, built on word-of-mouth referrals from families like mine. Instead, she chose honesty over comfort. 6 months later, when my daughter got engaged, I made sure Denise catered the engagement party, and I quietly covered the cost of new equipment for her business, as a thank you she never expected. Some debts aren't paid with money, they're paid with loyalty. Looking back, I think about how close I came to spending that entire anniversary night in blissful ignorance, dancing under string lights with a man who had already written me out of his future. One folded napkin changed everything. It makes me wonder how many marriages are quietly falling apart behind perfectly decorated backyards, behind smiling photos, behind anniversary cakes, nobody ever gets to finish cutting. If you've ever discovered a truth that changed everything in a single moment, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. Take care of yourself and never underestimate the courage it takes to hand someone the truth, even when it's easier to stay quiet.